It's been awful. I mean, I can't explain it.
Now at 5, action from the Attorney General's office after WRTV investigates uncovers questionable business practices, putting grieving families in further pain.
Encouraging students to create change, how this resource is fostering an activist spirit in our youngest minds.
And opposition grows against filling the open seat of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The argument from both sides on this complicated issue.
From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 5, streaming now.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Amanda Starrentino.
And I'm Mark Mullins. WRTV Investigates has been working for a resolution for grieving Hoosier families, and now we're seeing action after persistence.
The Indiana Attorney General's office has filed a lawsuit against a Greenfield headstone company following a WRTV investigation into their business practices. We first told you about Greenfield Granite last month after grieving families told us they paid for memorials they did not receive. The lawsuit filed Friday accuses Greenfield Granite of violating the Indiana Deceptive Consumer Sales Act. They say the company took money from grieving families and failed to deliver headstones and refunds, and some headstones were done incorrectly. The AG's office is seeking more than $20,000 in restitution for customers.
There are a lot of consumers in Hancock County and Greenfield that have reached out and indicated they've been harmed by this company. And not to say that you know, we're at the trial phase in terms of the proof phase, but those allegations we take very seriously at the Consumer Protection Division, and we want to make sure that if we need to, we can move very quickly.
A hearing is scheduled for next Tuesday, and until then, a court says Greenfield Granite cannot remove or dispose of any property. The owner of Greenfield Granite died by suicide earlier this month. However, the Attorney General's office says they will still have ways to help resolve consumer complaints and potentially get them their money back. WRTV Investigates is working on getting a response from Greenfield Granite.
New at 5, IMPD is now sharing new images of evidence and a timeline of events centered around a police-involved shooting that ended with several people hurt. This happened just before noon yesterday on Pleasant Run Drive. Officers were sent to a disturbance. They found a large group and shots had been fired. Police say a man fired a gun toward the officers. They fired back, injuring him, and that man was taken into custody. IMPD says 2 women were also shot before officers had arrived. This is the first officer-involved shooting for IMPD since it began its new use of force policy. The death of longtime Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has had massive ripple effects, with growing protests against the filling of her vacant seat until after November's presidential election. There was a rally today in downtown Indianapolis outside the offices of Republican Senators Mike Braun and Todd Young. Opponents of filling Ginsburg's seat say precedent was set back in March of 2016 when President Obama was barred from appointing a new justice before an election.
We have like 45 days left to the election. That is not enough time to vet a Supreme Court nominee, period. We can't even get through a second stimulus package because of COVID-19. Then we definitely don't have time to vet a Supreme Court nominee.
We have reached out to Senator Mike Braun for comment. We'll let you know what we hear.
With early voting underway in several states, voters are headed to the polls and mailing in ballots with 2 pressing issues in mind. After the passing of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, President Trump promised to nominate her replacement before the election. And the coronavirus pandemic is not only reshaping how some Americans vote, but who they might vote for. ABC's Andrew Dimbert is tracking the latest on the race for 2020 and joins us from the nation's capital with more.
With just a little over 6 weeks until the November election, 2 issues in 2020 could tip the scales and ultimately decide who wins the White House.
We're going to fill the seat.
After the passing of iconic liberal Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, President Trump is vowing to fill her seat before Election Day.
The Senate has more than sufficient time to process a nomination.
That decision to pick a new justice impacting voters with early voting already underway in some states.
The exclamation point at the end of the sentence rather than the primary reason, but definitely a little bit of a factor, yeah.
Another issue facing voters, the president's coronavirus response, which polls show is a weak spot for him. With the COVID death toll in the U.S. nearing 200,000, Joe Biden leveling new attacks on Trump, telling voters in Wisconsin the president panicked in the face of crisis.
Due to Donald Trump's lies and incompetence in the past 6 months, have seen one of the gravest losses of American life in history.
But the president steadfast in his defense since the outbreak hit American soil. Asked in an interview with veteran journalist Bob Woodward back in July what grade he gives himself in handling the pandemic, the president provided this answer.
I give ourselves an A. But the grade is incomplete, and I'll tell you why. If we come up with the vaccines and therapeutics, then I give myself an A+.
Meanwhile, over at the CDC, more confusion over how the virus spreads. New guidelines the agency put out in error Friday, warning COVID-19 becomes airborne and lingers after a cough or sneeze and can be spread from singing and choir practice, suddenly pulled. The CDC saying the posting was a draft version and the proposed changes were posted due to a technical error.
The livelihood and the life of our democracy are threatened by this administration.
And the latest ABC News Ipsos poll shows Trump's approval rating for handling the COVID-19 pandemic among registered voters is at around 35% compared to 65% who disapprove. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, Washington.
For Democracy 2020, WRTV is your source for all you need to know before November 3rd. We created our Vote in 2020 digital section at WRTV.com. You will find everything you need to know there, including who is on your ballot and where you can vote and when. Find it at WRTV.com/vote in 2020.
Several reports say the front runner to be President Trump's nominee is a conservative federal appeals court judge from Indiana. Judge Amy Coney Barrett was nominated by Trump to the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals and confirmed by the Senate in 2017. Barrett is also a professor at Notre Dame Law School.
We want to catch you up on Indiana's daily reported COVID-19 numbers. Today's cases were at 535, which is expected with lower reporting over the weekend. Since the start of the pandemic, over 112,000 Hoosiers have been positively diagnosed with the coronavirus, and 3,287 people in Indiana have died with the virus. 7 new deaths were also reported in today's numbers.
A financial boost for one organization here helping kids become better leaders and create change in their communities. ProAct Indy was just awarded $25,000 to work with students at Kindesi Academy and Circle City Prep. They're helping to run a program that will likely provide weekly leadership and social equality workshops. Students will also participate in community service projects, and eventually they will plan their own project to address an issue they feel their community is facing. Students can apply to participate. Leaders say this is designed for kids who come from vulnerable populations.
We want the kids that are in the margins, that don't really have anything to connect to get them exposed to different geographical areas through service, to different people that are going to invest in their lives and build relationships with them.
A nonprofit called the Mind Trust awarded ProAct Indy the funding for this project.
I've always said if I was going to work anywhere, it would be at Culver's because I love their custard.
So you remember Jerry Overly. How could you forget her spirit? She was the 79-year-old Culver's team member we introduced you to last fall, working at the Noblesville location. A customer favorite there for her great attitude. Culver's uses multi-generational and mentorship programs to help employees go from workers to restaurant owners. And for one Greenwood native, that day is almost here. A brand new Culver's is set to open in Franklin, and as WRTV's Lauren Casey learned, the owner and operator got her start from a young age.
I started Culver's when I was a senior in high school.
Ashley Mitchell had dreams of going to school to be a pharmacist, but her first job was at her neighborhood Culver's.
I was doing cashier, I opened the restaurant.
She worked full-time and went to college full-time at IUPUI.
And I asked to be an assistant manager.
But the doors kept opening to new opportunities.
And I became general manager of the restaurant at 23.
As one of the youngest GMs, Mitchell decided to change career paths and focus on growing in a company she already loves.
This was my career. This is what I wanted to do in my life.
Mitchell took part in the company's Mentee program in Wisconsin, a chance to develop her skills as a leader and business owner.
We did profit and loss statements. We learned how to do schedules. We learned how to do truck orders. We learned everything that you possibly could know. We've done TV interviews, mock interviews, and I'm putting it to use now.
Now she's working full-time on the final touches of her Culver's franchise near her home in Johnson County.
It just seemed like the right fit for me. There's so much growth and opportunity, especially right here on 65.
And the Culver's is conveniently located right off I-65 on exit 90 here in Franklin.
I want the community to know that we are here. We are going to support them.
Volunteering in the community is important to Mitchell, as is training the next generation of workers or maybe even another future owner and operator.
About half of my management team has been with me for 5 years or more. So I've watched them grow from team members to trainers to shift managers and assistant managers.
And now she needs you. Mitchell's in the process of hiring team members for all shifts and roles ahead of their grand opening.
Very cool to see all that growth for her. And that was Lauren Casey reporting. You can click on this story on our website at hiringhoosiers.com to find out how to apply. Ashley tells us opening day for the Franklin location is set for October 12th. Kevin Gregory joins us now. Hey, Kevin.
Well, Amanda, opening day for fall is tomorrow. We'll change seasons, but we won't really change the weather that much, that's for sure. We've got some more cool mornings and mild afternoons on the way, something to look forward to there. Put it in the books, another dry day across central Indiana. That is not going to change for a while. Our next best chance to kind of break, and I wouldn't say break the drought or dry conditions, at least bring some rain, will be over the weekend. Temperatures right now, 76 in Indy, Lafayette's at 80. What's significant about that, Lafayette started at 45 this morning, a nice temperature jump from morning low to afternoon high. We'll be down to 57 by the time we get to midnight. Tomorrow, first day of fall is officially arriving at 9:30 in the morning. Temperatures will be in the upper 70s tomorrow afternoon. We'll talk about what you may see in the sky, the impact coming up in just a little bit, and look forward to some rain.
All right, Kevin, thank you. As teams return to NFL stadiums across the nation, some fans are getting it right, and others may be further spreading the coronavirus. Still ahead on WRTV, we talk to fans and health experts about the risk of returning to crowds.
Today we are learning more about the 3 victims of a Sunday plane crash in Kokomo, including who is now mourning them.
The Howard County Sheriff's Office says 2 of the victims were teenage brothers from Carmel, and we're finding out they were both members of the Westfield High School cross-country team. The 3rd victim was the pilot. The crash happened around 11:30 Sunday morning near Glendale Airport, shortly before the Glendale Days Barbecue Bash charity event. The Sheriff's Office says the pilot was 63-year-old Gerald Allen Long of Kokomo. The teens were 17-year-old Liam Patrick Kelly and his 15-year-old brother Reese David Kelly. Another teenager was injured in the crash and is still in the hospital. The cause of the crash is under investigation.
Each week brings a new storm system during hurricane season, and the latest is a tropical storm Beta. Right now, it's off the coast of Texas and Louisiana. More than 10 million people are under warning. In Surfside, Texas, some neighborhoods are completely flooded, and many have evacuated. The slow-moving pace of this storm could hit coastal areas with 15 inches of rain and up to 4 feet of storm surge. Kevin.
And we'll keep our eye on that moisture, Amanda. Maybe we see some showers in southern Indiana from that. We're dry now. I'll take you to the Gulf Coast, and you can see around Houston and Texas coast toward Louisiana the rain and the flood watches and warnings that are in effect. Of course, that's rain soaked from earlier tropical systems as well. Back at home, temperatures comfortable. Boy, humidity's low, temperatures where they should be this time of year, lots of sunshine. Here's what's ahead. More of the same. Our rain chance is very low. That arrives on Thursday, and that's really in the southern portion of the state. Temperatures tonight back into the 40s. You realize that'll be 4 mornings in a row with temperatures in the 40s to start the day. Comfortable afternoon high for the first hours of fall. We won't call it the first full day of fall. That'll be on Wednesday, but you get the idea. Some smoke in the air tomorrow may give us a hazy appearance to the sky, kind of a milky white view. I'll roll this out from tomorrow morning through the afternoon on through Tuesday into Wednesday, and you'll see by Thursday some rain to our south. Again, if we see any showers in Indiana from the tropical system, it looks like it'd be in the southern portion of the state, and that seems to be a long shot. Temperatures Wednesday, a little warmer, right around 80 for the high. As you look at Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, the chance for rain goes up as we get to the weekend. Both Saturday and Sunday, there'll be an opportunity for rain. I don't think it will be a soaking rain. We'll take anything that we can get. We've only had 0.04 of an inch out of the last 34 days. The yard is pretty crunchy, obviously, but you'll circle Thursday, that small chance of rain, and then circle Saturday and Sunday. But don't do it in permanent marker if you're going to circle something on your television screen. Don't recommend that. Back to you guys.
With a racer. All right. Thanks, Kevin, for that. Hey, the Colts picked up a win on Sunday, but the team also lost another key player to injury, and that could have quite the ripple effect for the lineup going forward. The first injury came on the team's first drive. Wide receiver Paris Campbell was carted off the field. The Colts said today it is not a season-ending knee injury, but there's no timetable on his return. Safety Malik Hooker is done for the season after hurting his Achilles tendon. Brad Brown will have the latest and reaction from Coach Frank Reich tonight at 6.
And at this Sunday's Colts game, fans came together physically for the first time this season. And we try to remain unbiased, but it is clear Indianapolis fans did a great job of wearing masks, staying distant, and not creating crowds that could spread COVID-19. That is not so much the case for other teams' fans this season. A survey of 1,000 NFL fans found about half of them were willing to risk getting sick to see their team play. Lindsay Thies at our news gathering partner Newsy talked to fans and health experts.
I'm Mr. Bronco. I'm the Denver Dapper Man. And together, we're the Broncos brothers.
Jeremy Jessel and Justin Grimmett share a love for two things: sharp suits and the Denver Broncos. Together, they've attended hundreds of home games. But like many diehard fans, this year is different for them. With NFL games come COVID-19 risks. The Broncos are one of the teams with no fans for their home opener. Some teams, like the Giants and Jets, don't expect to host fans at all this season. Others, like the Kansas City Chiefs, hosted tens of thousands of fans right away.
You got to be loud. You got to be super, super loud. So we got to be 5 times as loud today with 5 times fewer fans, right?
But the problem with that, Northwestern Medicine's Dr. Irfan Hafez says, is it's ideal for spreading the coronavirus.
When shouting or speaking very loudly, or especially singing, there's definitely a lot of case reports that there is more aerosolization during those moments. So definitely the risk is a lot higher there.
Doctors say fans cheering, getting up for a concession, or tailgating close to others is also risky.
Fans should be looking at their community spread or case positivity rate. That's the percentage of all COVID-19 tests performed that are actually positive. Anything higher than 3 to 5% should be reason to stay at home and not travel, near or far, to a game.
If your areas experience a higher numbers, you definitely don't want to be taking that risk of asymptomatic spread into a lower risk area. That certainly can introduce that issue into the area that you're traveling to.
In Denver, the Bronco brothers aren't completely out of luck. Officials will adjust for a September 27th home game. Colorado Governor Jared Polis and team officials say some 5,700 paying fans can attend in pods of 175 people sitting in isolated sections of Empower Field at Mile High Stadium.
When you look at where people enter, the restrooms they use, the concessions they use, it's like a number of different groups of 175 that are there. That would allow for the groups that do have a outbreak, the contact tracing and the notification of others in that group.
That's a very small percentage of fans that are going to be allowed in. The level of excitement has just changed, and you've had to channel that energy in just a different way.
So this season is strange for the Broncos brothers. They'll replace sitting in the stands with sitting in their living rooms for the next few weeks. But their spirit for their team has never been greater.
We all come together for a few hours and we get to root for the home team, and we unite in orange.
Yeah, what's difficult is things are just uncertain, and we're more divided than we've ever been. But we do love the Broncos, and we want to encourage everybody to support each other, even though these games don't look like they used to.
Lindsay Thies, Newsy, Denver.
And if you just plain miss the buzz of the NFL, you can get your fix tonight on WRTV. It's Monday Night Football with the New Orleans Saints taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. Coverage starts tonight at 8, and it's followed by WRTV News at 11.
New developments on unemployment benefits for Hoosiers. What to expect around the corner when the news at 5 continues on WRTV. New today on WRTV, 164,000 Hoosiers will start receiving the extra $300 in unemployment.
The payments will cover 6 weeks of benefits. The extra money under the president's executive money is already spent.
In Indiana, we learned on Friday that our unemployment rate now is down to 6.4%. It's a very good sign, lower than our neighboring states and most of the Midwest here, well below the national average. So we continue to see fewer and fewer Hoosiers needing these benefits. But for the $300 program, that 6 weeks is it now. Again, that's not a state-based decision. That comes from the funding that's available for the program.
In all, $300 million will be issued this week to Hoosiers eligible for the extra $300. And while this federal program is done, Indiana still has funds to cover its state benefits.
2020 has brought a lot of obstacles, including shortages prompted by the pandemic. The uphill battle you'll face over laptops still ahead on the news at 5:30 on WRTV.